The signal came from deep space, bouncing off an old satellite near the edge of the explored galaxy. Most people ignored such static, but someone in the Terran Exploration Corps was paying attention. It was a weak, broken message, but a name. Stood out in the noise, Dr. Elias Monroe. That name had not been spoken in over 40 years. He was a xenogeologist, part of one of the first teams sent to the distant planet Gantor 5. That mission had failed. Gantor 5 was marked as too dangerous, too unstable. Everyone assumed Monroe had died there, and the planet was left alone ever, since now a signal with his name had arrived. Impossible, some said. A glitch. But others weren't so sure. Captain Ria Sato stood in the steel briefing room of the exploration vessel Ardent Resolve. She looked around at the gathered crew, scientists, engineers and explorers from different planets and species. Some had skin like metal, others had eyes like crystals, but only the humans looked ready to jump into danger without a second thought. The signal came from here, Ria said, pointing at a map of Gantor 5. A red dot blinked near the peak of a tall, cloud-covered mountain. One of the alien crew, a tall, silver-skinned being named Telrix, leaned forward. That mountain is over 12,000 meters high. Its gravity fields are unstable. It is suicidal to climb. Sounds like a challenge, Ria said with a smile. The humans chuckled. The aliens did not. The mission was approved after much debate. Most alien species believed it was a waste of time, a myth. But humanity was known across the stars for one thing, doing what others refused to do. The Ardent Resolve entered orbit above Gantor 5 2 days later. The planet looked sick from space. Green and purple clouds spun across its surface. Lightning danced through the skies. No drones could fly. The magnetic field would crush anything electronic. We have to go down manually, Ria said. Old school. Style. The landing was rough. The ship shook as it pushed through the violent atmosphere. But the humans were used to storms. They landed at the base of the mountain, close to where the signal had originated. Gantor 5 was not kind. The air was thick and heavy. Rain fell like acid, burning through light fabric. The ground was covered in twisted plants that snapped shut if touched. Strange creatures watched from the shadows with glowing eyes. But the mountain, Mount Jar, was worse. It rose like a black tower, disappearing into thick clouds. Jagged edges sliced the sky. There were no paths, no trails, only cold rock and endless height. As the team unpacked gear, one of the alien scientists, Dr. Vexel, approached Ria. There is no logic in this journey, Vexel said. Even if Monroe survived for a time, he cannot still be alive. You waste lives for a ghost. Ria looked at him calmly. Maybe. But humans don't leave their own behind. Not if there's a chance. She gathered her climbing team. 3 humans, herself, Jonas, and Leah, and 2 alien partners, including a strong lizard-like climber named Kareth. The rest of the crew stayed at base camp to monitor from below. Their gear was simple: climbing hooks, old-fashioned ropes, weather suits, and oxygen tanks. Technology would not help them here. The climb began at dawn. Every step was a battle. The mountain groaned like it was alive. Rocks shifted underfoot. Sometimes gravity would twist, pulling sideways or upwards. Leah nearly fell when her boots lifted off the ground for 5 seconds. Jar doesn't like us, she joked, catching her breath. By noon, clouds swallowed the team. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The wind howled like a voice, whispering strange words in no known language. Jonas, walking second in line, thought he heard his name being called, but no one was there. We keep moving, Ria said. Don't stop. Don't listen. Higher up, they found something strange. A line of metal stakes hammered into the stone. Old. Rusted, but clearly man-made. Someone tried this before. The cave inside Mount Jar was narrow and silent. Each step echoed strangely, as if the mountain listened. Captain Ria Sato led the way, her headlamp cutting through the darkness. Behind her, Jonas, Leah, and Kareth followed closely. The walls of the tunnel glowed faintly, covered in soft blue moss that gave off a weak light. "This doesn't look natural," Jonas said quietly. "The walls, they're too smooth." "It's like someone carved it," Leah replied. "Or something," Kareth added. They moved deeper. The signal grew louder in Ria's earpiece. It pulsed steady now, not broken like before. Whatever was sending it was close and active. Suddenly the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. The floor was uneven, and huge crystal pillars rose from the ground like frozen lightning. In the center stood something impossible. It was a shelter, old but still standing, made of metal, with panels taken from a crashed shuttle and shaped into walls and roof. A broken solar panel leaned against one side, still trying to absorb light from the moss. Smoke rose weakly from a small exhaust pipe at the top. Ria raised a hand. "Be ready, someone's here." They moved carefully. Jonas stepped forward and knocked on the metal door. No answer. Kareth took out a scanner. One life form, inside. Human. Ria stepped up and pressed a button beside the door. "This is Captain Ria Sato of the Terran Exploration Corps. We're here to help." There was silence for a long time. Then, a hiss. The door unlocked and opened with a slow creak. Inside, a man stood in the shadows. He was tall but thin, his face covered with a beard, his eyes sharp and full of tired wisdom. His clothes were patched with alien material. His boots were worn to the sole. "Dr. Elias Monroe," Ria said softly. The man nodded. "Took you long enough." The team stared, in shock. Monroe was alive. Older, yes, but very much alive. Leah stepped forward. How did you survive?" Monroe smiled faintly. "That's a long story. You'll want to sit down." Inside the shelter, the team gathered as Monroe poured water from a strange crystal jug. It sparkled slightly. He passed cups around. The water tasted cool and sharp, like metal and mint. "This mountain is alive," Monroe began. "Not like animals or plants. It thinks, it feels, it learns." The team listened quietly. "At first I tried to fight it. I ran, climbed, hid. It kept twisting everything. My compass spun uselessly. Time felt wrong. Days and nights blurred. I should have died. But then, I stopped fighting." He looked around the room as if checking for the mountain's ears. I listened. I studied. The mountain speaks in patterns, in light, sound, gravity. It shifts to test you. But if you pass its tests, it lets you live. Sometimes, it even helps. Kareth shook his head. "A sentient mountain? That is not possible." "I thought the same," Monroe said. "Until it saved me." He showed them a journal. Thick, worn, full of drawings and notes. Pages described gravity waves, echo sounds, living stone, and creatures made of fog and energy. One page had a drawing of a creature with no eyes, all mouth and claws. I call them foghounds. They come at night, when the mountain is angry. Leah looked nervous. "Is it angry now?" Monroe stood and opened a side panel. A small device, inside blinked red. "The signal you followed? I sent it on purpose, but the mountain felt it. It didn't like me calling for help." Outside, the wind howled. Ria stood. "We're here now. We're getting you out," Monroe frowned. "It won't let me go that easily." Jonas stepped forward. "You've survived alone for 40 years. With us, you'll make it down." Monroe looked at them, hope and fear mixed in his eyes. "Then we leave at first light, before the mountain decides otherwise." The wind screamed again, louder this time. The mountain was awake, and it was watching. The night was long. Strange sounds echoed through the cave. Sometimes it was a low rumble, like the mountain was breathing. Other times, there were soft whispers, impossible to understand, but close. Too close. Rhea didn't sleep. Neither did Monroe. The others rested lightly, weapons and gear close at hand. Outside the shelter, the wind kept howling, but there was no storm, just noise. Constant, sharp, unnatural. At first light, Monroe stood at the cave entrance. He squinted at the sky, or what little they could see of it through the mist. "We have to move now," he said. "Before it changes." Kareth tightened his gloves. "Before what changes?" "The path," Monroe replied. "The mountain moves it. If we're late, it will seal the way." That made no sense to most of them, but after everything they'd seen, no one questioned him. They packed quickly. Rhea took Monroe's journal. "If something happens, this must get out," he told her. "The galaxy needs to know what this place is." They left the cave and began their descent. At first, the path was easier than expected. The stone underfoot was solid. There were fewer gravity shifts. Even the wind was calmer. "This is too smooth," Jonas whispered. Rhea agreed, but said nothing. Then, just before noon, the mountain shifted. They all felt it, like the ground rolled beneath them, slow but strong. A loud crack echoed above. They looked up and saw large chunks of ice break off the cliff. "Avalanche!" Leah shouted. They ran. Massive blocks of ice and stone crashed down, shaking the path. Kareth grabbed Jonas and leapt to a lower ledge just before a rock slammed into their previous spot. Rhea pulled Monroe close and shielded him as dust and snow poured over them. When the rumbling stopped, the path behind them was gone. Completely buried. "We can't go back that way," Kareth said. "We weren't going back anyway," Rhea replied. But now the path ahead looked worse. Steeper, broken and narrow. Still, they pressed on. Hours passed. The air grew colder. Strange fog rolled in, thick and silver. It moved like water, curling around rocks and legs. Then the whispers returned, closer, clearer. "Do you hear that?" Leah asked. Everyone nodded. It was Monroe who answered. "Fog creatures. Don't stop, don't talk, don't listen." Shapes began to form in the mist. At first they were just outlines. Then they looked like people. Some familiar. Some not. Jonas froze. "I see my brother. He died years ago." Rhea grabbed his arm. "It's not real. Keep walking." The shapes followed, but never touched. They whispered names, memories, secrets. Kareth hissed as one. Fog figure leaned toward him. "They know," he muttered. "They know things they shouldn't." "Keep moving," Rhea shouted. They marched through the fog, eyes forward. No one spoke again. Finally, they reached a ridge. The fog stayed below, like it couldn't climb further. They rested. Monroe looked worse. His face was pale. His breathing was slow. "You okay?" Leah asked. He nodded weakly. "Just tired. The mountain is fighting back harder than before." Rhea looked at the sky. Dark clouds were forming again. Lightning flashed in silence. She turned to Monroe. "Is there another shelter nearby?" He nodded. "1 hour ahead. Built it years ago. If it's still there, we can wait out the storm." They moved quickly. The air crackled. Electric tension prickled their skin. Static sparks leapt from metal tools. The mountain groaned again, louder than before. "Something's coming," Jonas said. They reached the second shelter just as the storm broke. Rain poured like liquid fire, sizzling on rocks. Wind screamed louder than anything they'd heard before. But inside the old shelter, it was dry. Safe, for now. The crew sat in silence. Kareth sharpened his climbing axe. Leah checked their remaining supplies. Rhea stood by the door, watching the storm. Monroe sat in a corner, clutching his journal. "The mountain doesn't want me to leave," he said softly. "I've lived too long inside its rhythm. I think I think it sees me as part of it now. Rhea walked over and knelt beside him. Then we'll tear you out of it. Together. He looked at her, tired but grateful. You're stubborn. We're human, she said. It's what we do best. Outside, the storm screamed. The mountain was not done with them yet. The storm raged through the night. Inside the small shelter, the team stayed silent. Wind slammed against the metal walls, shaking them like paper. Sparks flashed outside the narrow window, lighting up the room with bursts of white and purple. Jonas couldn't sleep. He sat by the door, listening to the strange sounds. Sometimes the wind almost sounded like voices. Sometimes it sounded like laughter. He gripped his weapon tightly and didn't speak. Monroe coughed in the corner. His face was pale. His hands trembled. Leah moved beside him with a blanket and a small cup of heated liquid. "Try to drink," she said. He took a small sip and nodded weakly. "The mountain, it knows we're close to escaping. It's not just angry now. It's afraid." Kareth, sitting on the floor with his large arms crossed, growled low. "It should be afraid. I will burn it down, rock by rock." "It's not that simple," Monroe whispered. "This mountain isn't just stone. It has memory. It learns." Rhea stood at the window, watching the storm begin to fade. The sky beyond was still dark, but the worst seemed over. She turned to her team. "We leave at first light. We've survived worse." No one argued. They trusted her voice. By morning, the wind had dropped. The air outside was sharp and cold, but clear. The team stepped out of the shelter, blinking into the thin sunlight. The path ahead was narrow and icy, with steep drops on both sides. Monroe pointed. "Down that ridge, then across the broken cliff. If we reach the ledge before sundown, we're almost free." They moved slowly, carefully. Each step was placed with full attention. One wrong move could send someone falling into nothingness. Hours passed. Then they saw something ahead, a large stone archway, standing alone on the edge of the cliff. It was carved with strange symbols, not human, not alien, just ancient. "What is that?" Leah asked. "The last gate," Monroe said. "I don't know who made it. It was here when I arrived, long ago. Beyond that gate, the mountain's power is weaker." They approached the gate. But as they came closer, the ground shook. A loud crack split the air. From the left cliff wall, a creature crawled out, huge, gray, and made of solid rock. Its body was shaped like a human, but its face was smooth and empty. Its arms were long, with fingers like blades. Jonas raised his weapon. "What is that?" Monroe stepped forward, fear in his eyes. "A guardian. It only moves when someone tries to leave." The rock guardian growled low. The sound vibrated through their bones. "Run!" Rhea shouted. They ran toward the gate. A guardian leapt after them. Its heavy feet crushed stone. Kareth turned and slammed his axe into its side, buying a few seconds. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Leah and Jonas helped Monroe up the ledge. Rhea threw a small energy bomb behind them. It exploded in blue fire, slowing the guardian again. One by one, the team passed under the stone arch. When the last of them crossed, the creature stopped. It stood still, its body half cracked, smoke rising from its wounds. Then slowly it backed away and returned to the cliff wall. As if it was never there, the team collapsed behind a large boulder, breathing hard. "That thing," Jonas said between gasps, "it could have killed us." "But it didn't," Rhea said. "Because we made it." Monroe looked back at the gate. "The mountain won't chase us beyond this point, but it's not finished. There's one last climb before we reach the extraction point." "Of course there is," Leah muttered. They stood and looked ahead. One final peak, steep, thin, covered in black ice and surrounded by thick fog. "We climb," Rhea said, "together." They began the final part of their journey. but none of them noticed the small, round stone sitting on the path behind them. It pulsed once, soft red light, and then it vanished into the ground. The mountain was not giving up. Not yet. The final climb was the hardest yet. The air was thin, cold, and sharp like broken glass. Black ice covered every surface. The wind cut through their suits like knives. Every step was a risk. Rhea led the way, her fingers gripping icy rock. Behind her, Monroe moved slowly but steadily. Jonas helped Leah, who was tired but refusing to give up. Kareth scanned ahead, alert for any dangers. The fog was thick, swirling around them like living smoke. It whispered faintly, carrying voices. They could almost understand. Suddenly the ground shook. A low rumble rolled through the peak. The mountain was angry. Rocks fell from above, smashing near them. Rhea shouted, "Watch out! Move!" They scrambled sideways, dodging stones. One hit the ground so close that it sent a shockwave through their boots. Then the fog around them thickened, turning solid and cold. From the mist, shadowy figures appeared. Not like the foghounds Monroe had described before, but something new. Shapes that looked like giant hands made of mist, reaching out to grab. Jonas froze as one hand tried to wrap around his leg. He kicked hard and broke free. "Keep." "Moving!" Rhea yelled. "Don't let them touch you!" The team rushed upward, hearts pounding. The mist hands followed, grasping and swirling. Leah slipped on the ice, but Monroe caught her just in time. "Thanks," she gasped. They climbed faster, pushing through the fog's grasp. The summit was near. At last, they reached a small flat ledge. There they saw it, the extraction beacon, a small tower with blinking lights. It was old but still active. Their ride was waiting. Relief washed over them. Rhea radioed the base camp. "We're here, ready for extraction." A crackling reply came through. "Extraction inbound in 5 minutes. Hold tight." Suddenly, the ground trembled again. From the fog, a voice echoed, deep and low, like the mountain itself was speaking. "You do not belong here." Monroe stepped forward. "We came for one thing, to save a life. Nothing more." The voice rumbled. "The mountain protects itself. You must pay the price." Without warning, the mist around them surged. It formed into a massive figure, tall, powerful, made of rock and fog, the mountain's final guardian. Kareth raised his axe. "We won't let it stop us." Rhea nodded. "Together, everyone!" The guardian charged. Rhea dodged left, throwing a flare that burst with bright light. The creature roared and swiped, but missed by inches. Jonas fired his energy pistol, hitting the guardian's chest. Sparks flew, but it didn't slow. Leah hurled a grenade, shaking the ground. The guardian staggered, but kept coming. Monroe, weak but determined, shouted, "Aim for the head! It's the source!" They focused their attacks. Flashes of light and bursts of sound filled the air. Finally, the guardian faltered. Its rocky head cracked, spilling glowing mist. With a final roar, it collapsed into dust and fog. The mountain quieted. The storm ended. The fog lifted. Rhea breathed deeply. "It's over." They hurried to the beacon as the extraction ship appeared above, shining bright. The ramp lowered, and the team climbed aboard, pulling Monroe inside. Safe at last. As the ship rose from Mount Jar, the team looked back at the towering peak. The mountain was still there, silent and watching, but this time they had won. The ship hummed softly as it moved away from Mount Jar. Inside, the team sat quietly, exhausted but relieved. Outside the window, the mountain slowly disappeared into the mist, its jagged peak lost in clouds. Monroe lay back, finally resting after years of struggle. His eyes closed, but a faint smile touched his lips. He was safe now. Rhea watched him closely. "You did it, Elias. You survived the impossible." Monroe opened his eyes slowly. "No, Captain. We did it. Together." Jonas leaned forward. "What Will happen to the mountain now? Monroe sighed. It will keep living, learning. It's alive in its own way. We can't destroy it. We can only understand it. Leah nodded. So, what's next? Will people come here? Study it? Maybe, Monroe said, but with respect. The mountain is not just a place, it's a being. We have to be careful. Kareth grunted. I'm just glad to be off that rock. Everyone laughed quietly. Suddenly, the ship's alarm beeped softly. Rhea looked at the screen. Incoming message. From base camp. The voice was urgent. Captain Sato, we've received your report. The Council has ordered immediate study of Mount Jar, but they want to send a larger team next time. More equipment. And security. Rhea frowned. Security? The voice answered. The mountain's guardians might react to more visitors. They want to be ready. Monroe looked uneasy. More people could be dangerous. The mountain might not accept outsiders so easily. Rhea nodded slowly. We'll have to prepare. Carefully. For the next few days, the ship traveled back toward their home base. The crew took turns resting, checking equipment and reviewing. Monroe's journal. One evening, Rhea sat with Monroe in the ship's small lounge. She held the worn journal in her hands. You wrote about the mountain's tests, she said. Do you think others can pass them? Or is it just you? Monroe smiled faintly. Anyone who respects the mountain can pass. It's not about strength. It's about patience, listening, and humility. Rhea looked out the window at the stars. It's strange. This mountain, it's alive, and it feels like a friend and a foe at the same time. That's the truth, Monroe said softly. The mountain gave me life, but it also trapped me. It's both protector and prisoner. The ship's engines hummed quietly. Suddenly, a small alarm blinked on Monroe's console. He leaned forward to check. Captain, he said slowly, I'm detecting an unusual energy signature from Mount Jar. Something new. Rhea's eyes narrowed. What kind of energy? It's faint, but growing, like the mountain is awakening. Again, Jonas came over. Are we safe? Monroe shook his head. I don't know. The mountain is not done with us, or with itself. Rhea stood. We'll keep watching, and be ready. The stars outside shimmered. Far away, Mount Jar waited silently, its ancient heart still beating strong. The rescue mission was complete, but the story was far from over. The mountain's secrets were still alive, waiting for those brave enough to listen. And perhaps one day humanity would truly understand what it meant to live alongside a living mountain.